Tennessee has a new commitment. Hit the like and subscribe button if you want to be a part of that. What do the Vols pick up, Caleb Calhoun? What's the latest?
So Tennessee lands Douglas Utu. This is a huge, I wouldn't have switched gears on this if this hadn't happened. This is a gigantic pickup for Tennessee football. This is one of the most underrated pickups that Josh Heupel just got. A 4-star interior offensive lineman out of Vegas. Tennessee got him over Nebraska, Oregon, Michigan, and Alabama, and Washington. Notice I just mentioned 3 college football playoff teams last year. Tennessee beat them all out for a kid from Vegas. 4-star offensive lineman. This is breaking news. This is a big deal. Douglas Utu is a huge pickup for Tennessee. I can't stress that enough. So yeah, this is he stands at 6'4", 317 pounds. Again, 4-star on 247 Sports Composite. Roughly top 100 player, depending on where you go. The number 2 ranked national interior offensive lineman. Dave, this is what we talked for 2025, by the way. This is what we talked about Josh Heupel has to do. These are the players he has to get, and he got one.
Okay. Let's take a look at where Tennessee currently ranks because the 247 updates automatically. And that ranking update where the Vols rank in recruiting for the 2025 class is brought to you by Varner Ford.
Big Ben 4x4, $29,743. A 2024 T250 low roof cargo van, $51,955. 24 model Ford F-150 4x4 crew cab, $46,929. Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Okay, so Tennessee has I'm going to make sure this is updated because I said they would update it, but I'm not 100% sure that they have. All right, so let me see. Currently, Tennessee with 247's composite rating, which is the one we go to, is rated 14th overall. They do have. I'm trying to find.
They don't have Douglas Utu on that list yet.
I don't have Utu on there. So expect for Tennessee to jump somewhere in that 7 to 8 range by the end of the day, or once these composite rankings are updated across the board. Now, remember, they have to be updated by each individual, 247, blah, blah, blah. And it might take a little bit of time. But once they get those up there, that should be a top 7, 8 class. I will argue that that's even if Tennessee ends in the top 7 or 8, that's better than they need to with the transfer portal. I never thought I would say this, but a top 15 class and 5th or 6th in the SEC with what Tennessee has in terms of coaches, player development, scheme, and what they can do in the transfer portal, the Vols don't have to be top 5 in recruiting. And I would have argued that till I was blue in the face before the transfer portal, no question.
Yeah, I agree. And there's the transfer portal. And also, I've always felt that elite coaching can, like, if you have a superb game planner, you can turn top 10 classes into national title teams. Sure. I think with an elite game planner. And Josh Heupel is an elite coach. I think we agree an elite play caller. But then you're right, you bring in the transfer portal, and it's a big difference. Tennessee is. This is huge. That's why this is such a big deal for Tennessee. You're right. This is going to push them into the top 10. And I want to also point out Douglas Utu, Dave, again, a nationally rated 4-star offensive lineman from Vegas. Not an in-state guy, by the way. Not like some pipeline or connection. Josh Heupel went to Vegas to get this guy. Okay, I don't know if I can stress that enough, how big of a deal that is. One connection real quick. Cedric Tillman, I believe, went to Bishop Gorman High School where Douglas Utu came from in Vegas.
Yes,
I wonder if that helps.
Right. So I was going to mention that there was a connection. So this is where the Nicos and the Tillmans help you out in recruiting. And goodness gracious, I've covered a lot of recruiting, but this is, you start to build those pipelines. And I think that Philip Fulmer did that. So that question earlier that somebody had, how did Philip Fulmer get top 5 classes for 7 years? That was a big part of it. You know, he could always fall back on a guy and say, hey, I need to get, I need a defensive tackle, anybody in the area that you see that's better than maybe you thought. And let's face it, and Tennessee gets the benefit of the doubt in a lot of recruiting rankings because they've traditionally been a good recruiting school, that one decade withstanding. Dylan says, is this the start of a poly pipeline? Guys, I was told Nico Maleava was not a big active recruiter for Tennessee because he had volleyball season. Now, it still had an impact that he committed, and Tennessee picked up commitments after him, but he wasn't the type of quarterback who goes out and chases other commitments. However, he didn't need to. When you're Polynesian and you commit somewhere, don't think that other Polynesians who are just so about family and about trust and about all the right things in life, don't think they didn't take note of that. When the number one Polynesian in the 2023 class committed to Tennessee, you don't have to build a pipeline. They're taking note of that. And they're like, Jackson Moya's like, I'm going to take a look at Tennessee. And by the way, I've reported already on the show, but I'll report it again. Jackson Moya will be the surprise player of Tennessee's defense and maybe the entire team this year. Caleb, the pipeline is there because Nico just said yes. You didn't have to build it.
And then Keenan Peely starting too, by the way, back in. I mean, you're right.
And Keenan Peely is the most undervalued right now in your mind, Tennessee fan. The most undervalued player on the team is Keenan Peely. Trust me.
So do you think this is, and this is my honest question, and I don't want to be like raining on parades, but do you think because of these established pipelines, the Polynesian connections, the Cedric Tillman to Vegas connection, do you think this is less impressive of a get for Heupel to go national and get a 4-star over these other schools? Do you think that's less impressive than getting David Sanders would be? Put it that way.
Yes. I mean, but David Sanders is the number one offensive tackle. But I'm not arguing with anything you said, though. I think it's very impressive. But I think you used the Tillman connection to get him. And Sanders, to me, would be he would be the biggest pickup other than Nico under Josh Heupel. So you're comparing it to pretty
That's fair. That's fair. This is like when they even though he ended up going somewhere else, when they used the Kevin Simon pipeline to get Henry To'oTo'o. Funny enough.
Yeah.
And
very good.
I think that was a big reason they got him. Which is it's funny because it's crazy that they're building a American Samoa Polynesian pipeline right now, given how much Tennessee fans hated To'oTo'o after he left. Hated him. And
why did Tennessee not have a pipeline before? Why did they have to wait for Nico to get one? Because every Polynesian football family saw Henry To'oTo'o transfer from Tennessee to Alabama.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's true.
I mean, Alabama didn't have to tell anybody. They just said, this guy shows up on campus and we're probably going to get a couple of more Polynesian players and Tennessee's going to get less. I mean, I'm just telling you, it's noticed. I promise you that. It absolutely is noticed. Caleb, give me a rundown of where Tennessee ranks now and your thoughts, Caleb, on their recruiting as a whole.
Tennessee right now has moved up. They moved up only 2 spots with the pickup of Douglas Utu, by the way. They're now number 12 on 247 Sports Composite. So that has so they have moved.
Like adjusted, so they're not quite as high as I had them then.
Right. I don't understand how but this doesn't make sense because they're scored higher than Penn State or Rutgers. Oh, that's the average scoring. Okay, so I look, they're really number 10. Okay, they're really number 10. Rutgers is listed ahead of everybody. A lot of people. Rutgers is at number 9.
Rutgers has about 58 3-stars last I looked.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why they're number 9. But 58 3-stars should not qualify a top 10 class. So Tennessee's really number 11 when you take that into account.
Here's the way that rankings work. If you're a 3-star, you can have a big pile of scrap wood over here, but I would rather have a nice 2x4s and fewer of them to build my deck than a big pile of scrap wood that I can't do anything with.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how they do. By the way, That's how they do 3 stars. And it's an old school method with scholarship limits that I don't think matters anymore. By the way, I don't know if you guys know history, but the reason Johnny Majors won his national title at Pitt in 76 is Johnny Majors manipulated the no scholarship limit rule at the time. And Johnny Majors signed like a 100 deep class his first year at Pittsburgh, which was the class that had Tony Dorsett in it, which is really funny. But that's what Rutgers is doing with Greg Schiano right now, is they're just loading up on 3 stars. But so in reality, Tennessee has a number 11 class. I think it's going to get higher because, again, I mean, look, David Sanders Jr. and Isaiah Gibson, they're right around the corner. And Dave, if Tennessee lands those 2, we're looking at a 6 or 7 class at that point, right? Maybe even 5.
Absolutely.